T-Dog, J-Boy, and me, I'm Lugs. Our pride and joy is pumping our mugs. Be careful, kids, it could get rough. We're flipping our lids on sports and other stuff.
Welcome to Sport Weasel Central. I'm Lugs.
Lugs, you sound a little subdued, man. I'm J-Boy. Who are you?
And I'm T-Dog.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. Good to see you, boys. You know, I went to a funeral last week. Those are always tough, right? But 2 caskets were side by side. Do you know what one casket said to the other?
How's your stiff?
No.
I don't know.
Is that you? Is that you coughing? Is that you coughing? All right, let's get on with the nonsense here at the old broadcast center. Don't look now, but the Packers are starting to see signs they may have hit on a 3rd franchise quarterback in a row with Jordan Love. We'll talk about that. T-Dog's already chomping at the bit for that one. But we just finished up NFL Week 13. Fellas, if the season ended right now, today, the Dolphins and Eagles would be the number 1 seeds. How do you feel about that? Let's toss it to that man there. Lugs, how are you? What do you think of that?
The Dolphins are very entertaining, but I'm always suspect of them. I love their offense, Tyreek Hill and all of that. If they were to face each other, I would have to say Eagles. The Eagles just lost that one. That was sort of a mess. But I mean, you got to get past San Francisco if you're the Eagles. This weekend to me was the weekend of backup quarterbacks and wannabes. You know, you touched on it. The most interesting game for me was that Green Bay game, and Jordan Love threw up a couple of rainbow prayers. I mean, and hey, they were answered. So I don't know if he's the future, but he's doing right fine at the present. What do you think, dog?
Well, to be fair to Jordan Love, I mean, he was a backup. He's been a starter this year. He was a backup, you know. So, I mean, he's not. I know at times we've been harsh on Jordan Love. Let's be fair to Jordan Love. He was a starter this year. He did get a very unique contract structure because he was a starter. They wouldn't have given that unique contract structure to a backup. I mean, but I will say this: I'm glad you went with the Philadelphia, over the Dolphins, because they actually met Week 7 and the Eagles won 31-17.
There you go. So, see, precedent.
Yeah. So, and I like the Dolphins, and it's their offense seems to be clicking, and they dip. It felt like they dipped a little bit, where their defense is now rounding into form. Some of that has to do with Jalen Ramsey getting in to go across from Xavier Howard, so they can do a lot more things in coverage that allows them to do more unique things with the front 7, I think. And also Fangio, I just think, kind of rounded them into form. Just like we've talked about how Florio has or Brian Flores, my bad. Brian Flores is done with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I do worry about the Dolphins, just because looking at their rundown of teams they've won or lost to. I mean, they beat the Chargers. Okay, New England, not that great. Denver Broncos, obviously they've kind of bounced back, but then week 4 they played Buffalo Bills, who I know is like 500, but at that time they were riding high.
Yep.
They got crushed 48-20, and then they lost. They lost to the Chiefs, and then they lost to the Eagles. So I see looking at their schedule, I think they can beat good teams, but we'll get to see, because at the end of the year, the last 3 games they play Dallas, they play the Ravens, and they play the Bills. And if they beat two of those teams, then maybe I can take them seriously. But until that time, I think they're good. I think they can get to the divisional round. I don't think we'll be seeing them in the AFC Championship unless they start beating some actual teams of actual. I mean, look, that Washington Commanders game. What were the Commanders doing? I mean, you
Go for
you
it.
look at what Tyreek Hill's. You look at what Tyreek Hill's done all year, and watch those 2 touchdown passes. One for like 78 yards, one for 60 yards. How are you not like double and triple teaming him? I know you'd be like, well, Jalen Waddle can get. That's fine. Try to take something away. It's like, I look. I know they fired Del Rio, but good God. Anyway, getting back to what Lug said. Sorry, I went on. Sorry, wide tangent. I will kind of backtrack a little bit on Jordan Love. Maybe I was too harsh on Jordan Love because of this. This is another way to think about it. We kind of talked about it at the beginning of the year. This is the youngest offense by quite a margin. And maybe some of the inaccuracy problems that Jordan Love definitely did have during the period, maybe some of it was guys not running the right routes.
Right.
Because they're definitely, I mean, we could go back and watch like clips where clearly there's 2 people in the same area. And if 2 people are in the same area on their routes, clearly one of them ran it wrong.
You think?
Right.
No, really?
Or maybe both. Yeah. But
he didn't have 2 footballs, did he? No.
To be fair to what Luggs is saying, you can tell, in some of it's, not shockingly, we're playing quarterback. It's all about confidence. Just when you see that lollipop throw that Romeo Dobbs hauls down, I mean, to say it was a moonbeam would be an understatement. That was like a rocket taking off and then crashing into the sea. Like that kind of arc. I don't see that arc on a pass.
Sputnik.
Yeah, so like for him to, and then he follows that up on that same drive. He throws that touchdown to Christian Watson, his second one, where it's great coverage. I'm blanking on the DB. He just throws it. He's like, I trust you're gonna snatch the ball from him. And that's what he did. He snatched the ball from him and landed just in bounds the back of the end zone, and it was a touchdown. And that's just the thing is, as opposite to Mac Jones, who maybe again we were never very high on, he looked like a legitimate quarterback his rookie year. But these last 2 years have just shattered him. And I mean, I hate to say it, I don't know if he'll ever be the same again. Where LaFleur has shown this season he's a legitimately great coach to take this young of an offense and to maturate them all at the same time. And obviously there was some definite growing pains, but if you look at this last 3 games against the Dolphins or the Chargers, the Lions and the KC, I mean, they're catching fire at the right time, and they clearly definitely feel like they're going to sneak into the playoffs.
Well, right now they'd be a 7 and the last spot in the NFC, and they're 6-6, as they always say. Of course, there's a lot of football to play yet, and the Vikings at 6-6, Cowboys in the 5th spot, Falcons, and so forth. But you got to watch out for the Niners, I think, in the NFC, and don't rule out the Chiefs for crying out loud in the AFC, and the Ravens are playing well. And I was going to say the Jaguars, but what do we know about Trevor Lawrence? Is that a long-term deal, a couple of weeks? What do we know about that?
I heard they're thinking a couple of weeks, but if it's a high ankle sprain, those usually take much longer to recover from.
That's a lingering thing, isn't it? Like Mahomes had last year. Was that last year? In the playoffs?
Year before, I think.
Quarterbacks can usually play through it to some degree, much more than wide receivers and running backs because they have to run. But still, to be fair to Luggs' point, it still does affect a quarterback. I mean, because they're planting.
Yeah, I was going to say it depends on which ankle.
Yeah. So I mean, it is a deal. I mean, Peterson's come out and said he's not ruling them out for this week. I really doubt.
Yeah.
I really doubt he's going to play. I mean, we'll see if he is. I mean, he's I don't think he's human, or he's shot up on so many like horse tranquilizers that someone should probably be fired for being a doctor that allow that man to be out on the field. But at the very least, he probably misses, like kind of Logan says. I'd say he definitely misses this week. I think he has to miss 2 weeks, and he's still not going to be right if he plays 3 weeks from now. But there's a shot that he might play.
And let's talk about that game. First of all, the first Monday night game in Jacksonville in 12 years. They're wearing their slick black outfits, but then the Bengals come in that all white look. I don't know if my TV needed adjustment. I was, going to go back to the tubes and get the tubes tested back in the old days. But and then our boy, the backup quarterback for the Bengals, Jake Browning, puts on a freaking clinic like no one's seen before. What do you guys think of that game? That was a heck of a game.
It was. I think what it shows is, first of all, Zach Taylor, the coach, he knows how to manage a game for a quarterback. And then Browning just had the game of his life, basically. I mean, there's just no way to, everything he was throwing was on time. Chase was on. It was just one of those moments where you're thinking, wow, this guy could start in a lot of places. I mean, he could start in New England for sure. So, yeah, I was impressed by Browning especially, and by Zach Taylor's coaching. I think they make a little noise that we didn't expect them to make once Burrow got hurt. What do you think, Dog?
Lugs, I think you nailed it. I think the main thing is and I'm not going to say you all, but I at times were maybe doubting how good Zach Taylor was. And obviously I came around with particularly how they played the last 2 years. But this is just another indication that, anyone who doubted that Zach Taylor can coach, I mean, to take Jake Browning, who's been with them for a while, and he did coach the offense. The offense operated differently than Joe Burrow, which shouldn't be surprising since Burrow is just so great at assessing the field that you're going to pass the ball more. They were more balanced. They got Mixon more attempts. He finished, and I know some of it's inflated through overtime. He had 19 rushes for 68 yards. But they also got Chase Brown, the rookie from Illinois, involved. He had 9 rushes for 61 yards. And, when you have a talent like Jamar Chase, I'm sure Zach Taylor got in Jake Browning's ears. It's like, hey, give at least double-digit targets to Jamar Chase. Like, it'll make it happen. But the one thing I want to give credit to Jake Browning for, if you look at, some of his pass attempts that he made a lot of deep pass attempts.
Yeah.
And some of that is the Jaguars are – I mean, I think they're a good team, but you have to worry about their secondary. Their secondary has been kind of shredded by a lot of teams this year. But, to be fair to Zach Taylor and his coaching staff, they did what they're supposed to, attack them. And they actually were able to run on the Jags, where the Jags have been pretty hard to run on. So it was great. And – I really feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because he's been playing good all year, but kind of like Jordan Love, these last 3 or 4 weeks, if you look at him, he really caught fire. He was playing at a quasi MVP level, just how he was kind of carrying this team to some extent. And the injury definitely kind of derails it. And, they were already kind of neck and neck with the Texans. It feels like the Texans are going to pull up late and win the division. And if Trevor Lawrence can't get back, I mean, it's crazy to think 2 weeks ago we said there's no way the Jags don't make the playoffs, and it feels like it might slip away.
And C.J. Beathard is the backup, right? The journeyman 30-year-old, I think.
Yes, from the 49ers primarily. He had some starts under Kyle Shanahan.
But, back to Jake Browning, he tore it up in college, as you guys know, at Washington. And Troy Aikman was going on and on about him. And I think, don't know the season, don't know that maybe it was high school or college, 91 touchdown passes. And, the guy has some chops, and maybe he's hit his stride. Maybe he'll get a real starting job next year. I mean, again, looks like the Jets whiffed again. They could have had Jake Browning. How many are on that
Well-
list? We keep adding to that list.
But the Jets are going back to Zach Wilson.
Oh,
You know, it's crazy.
well, I think Jake Browning definitely. I want to give definitely credit to him, but with a lot of things, you look at who's coaching the offense for the Jets. Look at what he did last year.
Excellent
with
point.
the Denver Broncos, and most of the pieces in Denver. I mean, they really paid a lot out the nose for some offensive line players, but for the most part, on offense, that's the same offense. And even though they're not tearing everybody up, they're a solid offense on Denver. And I know he's Aaron Rodgers' boy, but I don't know how much longer Nathaniel Hackett's going to get to – he'll be a coach in the league for a long time, but it feels like his time as an OC is going to expire whenever Rodgers retires and he can't lobby for his boy anymore.
Well, the Bengals sit at 6-6. I think there's about 36 teams at 6-6 right now, and they're knocking on the door. Of course, they'd be on the bubble at this point, but who knows? Stranger things have happened, and if other teams lose a quarterback, who knows what happens? So, let's talk a second about the Colts and Minshew. What the heck's going on there?
Well, they're winning some games,
Right. Despite themselves sometimes.
Right. I was going to say it's like crazy. It's without Jonathan Taylor.
Anthony Richardson.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gone. Although I will say that that wide receiver, Alex Pierce, he did all right in that game. I think he caught 3 or 4 really good passes and had at least 100 yards, I believe.
No, actually, you nailed it on the spot. He had 3 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. So it was. It wasn't. I can't say it was impressive. It was one of those where, at a certain point, they just decided they wanted to win, and Tennessee just sort of said, "Well, I don't know," And so and our boy left us. He left us out in the cold on that one. I say left us in for Dan Issel. That was Dan Issel's term.
He called him leftist, not Levis. He called him left.
Left us.
I like that a
always
lot.
called
I
him
like that a lot.
leftist.
That's really good.
So anyway, it was one of those games. I saw a little bit of it. It was just like, oh my God, fellas, somebody come up with some offense here. But anyway, to get back to the point, I suppose, hey, they got a shot. The Colts have a shot.
Well, quietly, they're sitting at 7-5. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So,
To be fair to your all's point, like it was a wild game. On some levels, it's a lost season for Titans, but you feel for them because they were in that game. And if Derrick Henry doesn't get knocked out the way he was playing in that game, do the Titans lose? I don't know. And it did take the Colts, they blocked not 1, but 2 punts, and they returned one for a touchdown, I believe. And then
we call those intangibles, don't we? Intangible.
Yeah, and then on top of it too, literally on the same play or after the touchdown, the Colts tried a 2-point conversion, and Amani Hooker on the defense returned the 2-point conversion. So it was, the Titans scored on a 2-point conversion, even though they were on defense. So it was one of the most bizarre games. It was entertaining. I'm glad that we had it in our market.
Yeah.
Actually, we had 2 entertaining games, so I was kind of happy with the early games. But I'll just hit upon again a backup quarterback, and I guess this is the theme of the show.
It is
Good offensive coaches, and I'm not saying it's all on them, but they also identify quarterbacks that can play in their system. Steichen knew that Gardner Minshew could play in a system from both being in the Eagles. They lose Anthony Richardson, which stinks, but like Gardner Minshew, maybe he's not ever a long-term starter, but he's gonna be. I'll ask you all, is he the heir apparent to Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I was just going to say that. It's on my script right here. I was going to ask Lugs, since Minshew grew the hair and came from the Jaguars where they did the mustache night, remember that, or whatever that was?
Oh, yeah.
And I think
The
he is
Fu
our new Ryan Fitzpatrick. You nailed it, man. We're at ESP right here.
Fitz magic.
And I think think about it, like he's still relatively young. I think he already has over 20 wins in the NFL. So like he's gonna hang around, and like he might be, one of the more highly paid backup quarterbacks. And again, it feels like Fitzpatrick too, where he can make some sensational plays, and in the same game,
Go bonehead.
he'll make one of the most bizarre turnovers, and you're like, how is that the same guy? But again, I think guys in the locker room love him. He makes enough plays that you kind of put up with, I guess, the bad plays, and obviously I guess the pressure is as much because like they're like, hey, he's a backup. What do you expect? He's not going to be perfect. I guess that's the thing. It all comes out of perspective. But I just think Steichen's done a great job. Zach Moss, you got to be happy for him too as a backup. I know he didn't have a great game, but he's played great this year for when Jonathan Taylor has been, decided not to play for the few games, so he got a long-term contract, and now with the hand injury, he's played. And we want to talk about a guy who I believe his contract's up, Michael Pittman Jr. That man is going to get paid. He has really turned it on these last few weeks. He looks like I'm not going to say a top-tier wide receiver, but like very close to that. So he's going to get paid. And, like I said, it was a fun game.
I mean, Minshew's 27. Our crack research department checks in. And Lugs, he's one of your boys. He's from East Carolina. He went to ECU, baby. ECU. Come on. The Pirates. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, now, Dog, I have to bring up a backup that you may not be happy with. Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito.
Have you seen his numbers? He's 2 of 3.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, 2 of 3.
He's 1-2.
1-2. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he's won 2 games. And his passer rating is like 105. He's like higher than probably 20 other quarterbacks in the NFL. Is that not? That speaks to me again to Dable, to the coaching. It has to, because Tommy DeVito, we all agree. I mean, he's even worse than Mac Jones. So.
Yeah. Well, I will say the one thing that is kind of dubious is one of those wins. It's funny. It's on polar opposite sides. One of his wins came against Washington, who, like we said, before even Del Rio got fired, and even after Del Rio, I don't know what they're doing on defense. I'll be quite honest with you. I don't know. I don't know if they have, because fan base is still like maybe lost from the Snyder years. They're allowing fans in attendance to come out on the field to play like DB and safety, like the way guys are just running past them like every game. And then the next week they beat the New England Patriots 10-7 in Week 12. And again, the New England Patriots are so weird. They have a great defense, but because if you look at like how many points a game they're giving up, they're not giving up that many points. But some of it is because teams are just so conservative because they're like, listen, as long as we score a touchdown, New England Patriots are not going to win. All we have to do is score 7 points. New England can't even get to that. So,
yeah, with New England, let's be honest. Even the best defense in the world can't keep people out of the end zone if they're out there for 45 minutes straight. That's what's killing them.
Oh my God!
They have no hands players, no backs, no receivers, no tight end. I mean, seriously.
Well, the sad thing is Ramondre over kind of like, again, Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence more, I guess, like Jordan Love. He had some disappointing weeks. Like the last month, Ramondre Stevens started to turn it on and looked like the guy who had over, I think, 1,300 yards from the line of scrimmage last year. Like, looked like a legitimately good starting running back. He gets taken down and has a high ankle injury. He's probably done for the season, Ramondre Stevens. So they have to try out Ezekiel Elliott, who had 17 carries for 52 yards.
Zeke
against just a bizarro Chargers defense. And, like the weather was bad, and I feel bad for Herbert too, because I think we talked about this last week. He is on some levels Phillip Rivers in that, like, the whole team implodes around him. He still is playing well. His numbers aren't overwhelming, but if you watch him, he's still playing well, but you have to have players around you. You can't do it by yourself. Austin Eckler, ever since he had that high ankle sprain from week 1, he had moments, but you could tell he's shot. Like, he probably should not be playing, in all honesty. Keenan Allen, similarly, in this week or last Sunday against the Patriots, he was really banged up, and Bill Belichick's going to put 3 guys on him, make sure he doesn't beat him. You hate to say it, their first round pick, Quentin Johnson. Guys, it's crazy to think. Like, they'll give him one more year, but he's going to be on a short leash next year. They needed someone to step up across from Keenan Allen after Mike Williams went down. Josh Palmer went out. They took Quentin Johnson to be one of their, and he can't do anything. Like, he has a big drop in every game, and but still they're okay kicking 2 field goals because, again, Bailey Zappi, and again, I'm not going to kill Bailey Zappi because, like Mac Jones, I kind of like what Lug said, like, just the skill positions. I think the offensive line's not that good, Really, you also need to think about this too. Not that Bill O'Brien's resume was sterling, but like, it was fairly decent, but especially in comparison to last year's Matt Patricia. I think poor Bill O'Brien's taking a big hit on this year too. Like, he's like, what do I have to work with? It's like, nope, too bad. Nope, you were head of this offense. Like, I don't think anyone can make this offense half decent. Like, it's just a lot of just mediocre players. And they're all slow. And to be fair to Lugs' point, the one guy that's fast, Tyquan Thornton, he can't catch a ball. So it's a moot point. So.
Yeah, man.
The one thing I'd say, though, is he's no Phillip Rivers, sir. Phillip Rivers and his wife, Tiffany, have 10 children between the ages of 4 and 21. So he's got a little catching up to do.
Okay, so he's not as virile.
Is that the word? Word of the day. Good job, use the word of the day, virile. We'll give you 2 extra points on that.
Or he's not as potent. I don't know. Where
Potentiometer?
He's not a potentate.
Mo Leary. He's a potentate. All right, Lugs, let's do a little sports of yesteryear. You got that in your Rolodex there?
Yes, we do.
Okay, here comes the big open for our big show. This is Sports of Yesteryear. Lugs is out and about. He's our man in the field. He's going to tell us all about things that happened many, many moons ago. His name is Lugs, and here he comes now. Go, go, go.
All right, 1925, record 73,000 pay to watch Chicago Bears beat New York Giants 19-7. 1955, in the strange sort of sports topic, New York psychologist Joyce Brothers wins the $64,000 question with the topic of boxing. Okay? 1986, 52nd Heisman Trophy Award goes to Vinny Testaverde from Miami. 1992, San Francisco 49ers. Wide receiver Jerry Rice catches NFL record 101st touchdown in a 27-3 win over the Miami Dolphins at Candlestick Park. And finally, 2018, Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry explodes for a franchise record 238 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 30-9 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. One of his runs was a 99-yard TD run, which basically took over for Dorsett from the Cowboys. So that is your sports of yesteryear for this edition.
Little flag on the play. That ain't no sports. Joyce Brothers, what? She did what? And who would? Wait, now back me up here. Joyce Brothers was what? Sex
She
doctor?
was a psychologist.
Was
She was a psychologist.
psychologist?
She
I'm
was-
getting her mixed up with Dr.
she would
Ruth,
be
I
on-
guess.
Yeah, Dr. Ruth. No, she would be on with Carson and those kind of
Joey
guys.
Bishop, people like that.
Yeah. So she won the $64,000 question game show, and the topic was boxing. So I said it was tangential, but
Yeah, I like it. No, it's called
It was there for our psychologist audience.
which is whoa, that's mounting. That's growing. We got a new demo. Psychologist for 100, Alex. No kidding. Wow. Okay. Dr. Joyce.
Yeah.
All right. So that's
She
sports
was-
of yesteryear.
She was of the era. I was going to say, sorry. She was of the era with Kreskin and those kind of people, So anyway, Kreskin used to hide his check under a chair in the audience. And find it or
Yeah,
something.
I saw Kreskin admittedly in person once in the Palace Theater, and he was a little elderly. Fellas, you could see
Yeah.
the strings coming from the rafters, holding the magic ball or whatever the heck. And there was fishing lines. You could clearly see the amount of filament. I'm like, oh man, this is not good. Okay, that's the yesteryear part and the other stuff part. What other games do you want to fire on here? It's 30 past the hour and it's 48 degrees at the Metropolitan International Airport. There you go.
What was your fave there, dog?
Well, it ended up being a really tight game, but it was still compelling. The 49ers-Eagles game.
Yeah.
I think was great in terms of the one thing we like about sports. Hopefully this doesn't happen in life, but the nice thing about the arena of sports, hopefully, is you get to see two teams that really don't like each other, and that's the one thing. That's the one thing this 49ers Eagles thing has, and that's what you want to see in sports. I mean, you want to see like two teams like really kind of go at it and like jaw jack and maybe be a little. So they had that element of drama. They I think besides the Cowboys, these are clearly the three kind of Brahma Bulls of the NFC. And maybe you can make a case now, besides maybe the Ravens, all the NFL, like they're the top three Brahma Bulls. I think everyone else besides Baltimore Ravens are fundamentally flawed in some way in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun to watch these two teams kind of go at it. And I know we've said this for like the last 2 years. The main thing is with the 49ers, when everyone is healthy, because I know they had that dip when Trent Williams, their left tackle, was out, Debo was out. Brock Purdy kind of wavered a little bit. He had some, like a little rough patch, and people are like, see, he's not that good. He is good. Like, let's just give him a break. He's maybe not as great as like what I remember as CBS this morning. He said like we need to pay the man. It's like, well, he's playing this well because he has the greatest allotted amount of skill players I've ever seen on a team. But still, he's operating at the apex of the system. He's a system quarterback, but he's playing at the ceiling of the system. So you got to give him credit. On that.
He meets the mark. Right.
But I'll tell you what, guys, like. The Eagles' defense is kind of a mess past that D-line, and that's what the 49ers did. They attacked those linebackers. They attacked those safeties. And, I know the last year and this year, Brandon Ayuk has really kind of come into his own. And because of injuries last year, some people are like kind of down on Debo. It's like, well, maybe Debo just had that 1 year. Debo showed again why, like, he is such a unique player when he is operating at full capacity. Like the strength of him to rip off like being tackled by a linebacker and then burst past corners that have that combination of power and speed and like in his skill set. And then just, they struggled in the first quarter. But after that, they really leaned heavily on Trent Williams and the left side of that line and just pounding them with the run, getting Debo the ball in space. Just Purdy just operating at a phenomenally high level. And, since that Chase Young trade, I think Jalen Hurts, considering his situation, played relatively well. But, the 49ers are just going to be so tough to beat. Like, they have to be viewed as the team to beat. Because if everyone's healthy with that front four, with that whole offense, where I think they're like best passing offense and their best passing running offense in terms of efficiency, I don't know how you stop them.
Well, and you didn't even mention McCaffrey. And McCaffrey is like a safety blanket for Purdy for sure. But to put it in perspective with Debo, he touched the ball 7 times and scored 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty high percentage. I'll take that. So Philadelphia, they had moments where they were in this game, but then it just all fell apart. It's kind of like finally an ugly game for them that they didn't win. They're used to winning ugly, but San Fran was having none of it. And Kyle Shanahan, he gets it out of his players, but on both sides of the ball, he's got more Pro Bowlers and probably Hall of Famers than any coach that I think I've ever seen. It's pretty amazing the talent that they have. I don't know how long they'll be able to keep them, so they need to win and win now before everybody gets that huge, huge contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and not that anyone else hasn't said this. Credit to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. The last 2 years, they pulled off a trade for Christian McCaffrey, where in this day and age and analytics and stuff, you're like giving up that much draft capital for a running back when you already blew multiple first round picks on Trey Lance. They don't care. They don't care about the outside noise. They're going to make a move for a running back. And, Christian McCaffrey is a unique running back. And like what Lug said, like he's so much more than a running back, just how unique an asset he can be in the passing game. And then, for them to trade again draft capital this year for Chase Young, who we know what his ceiling is, but, there was a reason like he was cheaper than the pass rusher the Bears got from Washington is because he's been injured. There's a reason why he went for cheaper than Montez Sweat is because Montez Sweat, one, has been more consistent. But as good as Montez Sweat is, his ceiling is not what Chase Young can be. And that's the thing is 49ers are banking on the reward, and they're willing to take the risk. And it looks like, they're going to end up with the jackpot. So.
Okay, T-Dog, you mentioned players and the in your grill concept of this game. I'd be missing a point here if we didn't talk about the interaction between Dre Greenlaw and the head of security of the Eagles, Dom DeSandro. First of all, my basic question is this. Okay, they ejected both those guys. Here's a guy who's not even a coach. What's he doing in the grill of a player on the sideline of the field? And he's the head of security, which leads me to believe he's probably packing a weapon or something. Lugs, what the heck was that, man? I've never seen anything where the head of security is, on the sidelines? Who is this guy?
I believe what we saw there was a little testosterone overload on both parties. Once those two boys get to yelling at each other and pushing and shoving, it was, I don't get it. I don't know that Greenlaw should have been thrown out because that head of security, he's got nothing to do with the game. I mean,
what's he doing there anyway?
He was supposed to be looking at the crowd and making sure that people weren't throwing stuff. I don't know what he was doing. I have no clue.
T-Dog, what? Come on, that's crazy.
Stupid.
Well, I think you all agree. Like he's been, he's also known as Big Dom.
Right, Dom.
Big Dom. Big Dom has been with the Eagles for over 24 years. It goes back to the Andy Reid era. And
Yeah, he meets guys at the airport, picks up players. I get all that, but what's he doing?
no, Jay Boy, you're right. Like it feels like the unfortunate thing for Big Dom is this. At least for the rest of this season, if not, unfortunately for him, maybe the rest of his tenure being associated with the Eagles, that man's not going to sniff the sideline.
I'm thinking.
All. There's no way in hell that can happen. Like, it's embarrassing for the Eagles, and the Eagles will be able to brush it off because they're a very well-run organization. But still, it is perplexing. Also, look, I know he's a big man or whatever, but let's just get it out of the way. Like, he is not a professional athlete. Like, why is he getting a jaw jacking with Greenlaw? Greenlaw would obliterate him.
A 25-year-old man versus a 50-year-old man. I'm going with the 25-year-old fit athlete, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is also like, I'm not saying in his day like that Big Dom wasn't.
He was Golden Gloves. He was Golden Gloves probably.
Yeah, but it's you're talking about a top of the pyramid athlete in like all of American sports. It's like, this is not a good idea to get it, because you don't remember like a few years ago, like a guy at an airport who was probably like 6'2" or 6'3", saw Pac-Man Jones, who's like 5'9", and thought he could take Pac-Man Jones. Pac-Man Jones wiped the floor with him, obliterated. It's like, dude, he might be short, but like he's all muscle. Like he's like,
that's all he does.
Yeah, he's all muscle
weights.
and twitch. It's like you're not gonna win a fight.
And something else I noticed, Lugs. Okay, so Big Dom and even who's our head coach there at the Eagles? The Italian
Sirianni.
guy. Yeah, Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni.
They got the little Italian flag on their arm on the warm-up gear, on the swag, and on the side of the hat. What is happening here? That just reeks of like mafiosa. What's going on with the whole Italian?
When I heard Big Dom,
Right.
I'm thinking bouncer, at the family nightclub or whatever. But I disagree with one thing.
You like it. I know you like this. I know you do.
Philadelphia, Big Dom is the man. You know what I mean? In that town, I'll
Folk
guarantee you. Now he can get any Philly cheesesteak he wants with a couple of brews. They're patting him on the back, going, "You go, Big Dom." So I think he'll still be on the sidelines. He will.
So wait a minute. Are you saying right next to the Nick Foles Philly statue, there's going to be one of Big Dom like jaw jacking with Greenlaw right in his face?
There should be. There should be, man.
We're going to look back and that'll be the turning point of the season or something,
That would be great if that was the rally cry of the Eagles. Like the Eagles go off and tear everyone until the Super Bowl, and then they have Big Dom come.
They'll have a Big Dom night at the next game where everybody wears the wire rim glasses and a hat and give them out at wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, come on, let's get some marketing here. Let's make a call to the Eagles. Anyway, all right, that's that one. What else? 42 past the hour. What do you got else? What else?
Well, I was just going to. Sorry, I was just going to say, the top college football teams, the playoffs are set, and they're all whining about Florida State not making it.
What do you make of that?
They don't deserve to make it. Come on.
Oh, come here. Here comes the
They do
Alabama
not deserve to make
apologist.
it.
His name is Lugs. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Hey, Georgia would be more my taste. But let's be honest. That Alabama-Georgia game got massive ratings.
Yeah.
The college football playoff crew is not going to include an SEC team. I'm just sorry. And what karma being what it is, if you believe in karma at all, Florida State's administration with ACC and a couple of other entities were the ones who pushed. It would have been 12 teams this year, but they pushed it back a year. So boo-hoo all you want. Go talk to Ghost of Bobby. Do whatever you want.
Who's the Ghost of Bobby, man? Oh, Bobby, the old coach. Yeah, what was his last name?
Yeah, with the Panama hat.
Yeah, yeah.
Bobby Bowden.
Bobby Bowden. Yeah.
Bobby, who knew how to pay off players when it really counted. But anyhow,
But
they
wait.
got what they.
No, they're the first undefeated team to be left out of the top 4. Now, how do you answer that question?
They're just not good, as far as I'm concerned.
If that's a quote, that's the headline. They're just not good.
They're not good. I'm sorry. They got a great defense, but they have no offense. Once what's his name broke his leg.
Travis.
Travis, who was at U of L, by the way, wasn't he, for about 15 minutes?
He was in 15
showed up.
minutes.
That's
Right as it hit 15, he was out the door. Like he didn't.
14:58, 14:59, 15. See
Well,
you, Coach.
All I can say is the Michigan guys are going, damn, because they could have had Florida State and just myrtleized them. Now they got to play Bama. See, I think it'd be perfect if Bama and Texas end up in the final game. Isn't that poetry? That's bookending.
How's that poetry? How is that poetry?
It rhymes. It rhymes.
Texas, Alabama. It's poetry.
Texas, Alabama. T-Dog, what do you think of the Final Four? What do you think?
I will at least give this to Lugs. I mean, it comes down to they want the games that can be the most compelling, and the Florida State being limited by even like that was a true freshman third string guy. Like they would have had their second string guy back for the game against Michigan if they would have got in. But I understand like the Alabama. I will agree with I don't know what this kind of aligns in me. I have a problem with it because to have Jordan Travis go on Twitter or X and be like, I wish I would have had my leg broken sooner so people know this team was more than a quarterback. I mean, that tells you how messed up this whole situation is.
True.
That a guy is talking about having a horrific injury happen to him earlier so that like his team wouldn't be penalized. And that's the thing is like Louisville, they're a good team. I mean, they were in the top 10, and maybe some of that was still kind of pumped up. I will give you that, but like they were legitimately a good team, and they couldn't do anything against Florida State because their defense was just that talented, and to go undefeated and not to get in because Alabama, yes, they had the great win against Georgia. I'm not going to disagree with that. But you can't tell me that winning last second against a very mediocre Auburn team is great. I don't think, losing by 10 points to Texas is great. And also SEC was down this year. I mean, look, I'll give you this year in, year out, SEC is good. But this year, ACC versus SEC, ACC was 6-4 against SEC. So, I mean, to act like, SEC is so much better. And look, I get it. I'm not going to get too mad about it because a lot of the people pulling the true strings are ESPN. And even though they have the ACC, their moneymaker, their breadwinner is the SEC. So, like, they're not going to keep them out. I get it. And I will agree with Lugs. Like, it'll be more compelling. But there is a huge aspect of me that I really did not like it because I felt, I think the thing that's messed up is this. If Georgia would have won, would you agree Florida State gets in, right? Not Texas. They had to put Texas in because they couldn't deny Texas.
Well, Florida State was 2 down, though. They weren't even in the top 5 in the last,
Well, no, that's the thing is like it's not only Alabama overleapt Florida State. It was also Texas who leaped over Florida State.
That's correct.
Even though Florida State didn't lose anything. But what I'm saying is if Georgia would have won,
gotcha.
I feel that they would have put in Florida State with Georgia because they were like all these 3 teams, all 4 of these teams are undefeated. Where when Alabama won, we're like, well, we can't put Alabama in without putting Texas in. And obviously you can't put Washington in and Michigan. And then look, if you want to take shots at Michigan to some extent, I'll agree with you. Like outside of Ohio State and
Right,
Penn State, who did they beat?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Iowa has 10 wins, but again, Iowa's just yeah, exactly. Lux's laugh is all you needed to say about Iowa. Like they won the yeah.
I was just going to say they had a quarterback that made Jared Lorenzen look small. I mean, that quarterback has to be 320, 330, man. He was just a couple of meatloafs in a pair of pants.
And his name was Dom. His name Dom.
And the other funny aspect we haven't hit on is all the years of this podcast, guys, we cracked on the Pac-10 or Pac-12, always slipping on the banana peel. They finally don't slip on the banana peel as a conference. They have a team get into it, undefeated, has 2 great wins against a legitimately great Oregon team. That's the one good thing for Washington. And even with Oregon losing those 2 games, like Oregon is a very good team. But how do you they finally don't slip on a banana peel, and that's it. That's
conference
over.
over.
It for the conference. Now that is poetry.
Well,
that is poetry.
To wrap this up,
that's blank verse. That's not poetry. That's blank verse.
So they've played 13 games right now, right? And when you get the bowl game, whatever that be, it'll be your 14th game as a player. Walk me through the 12-team thing. This is going to be like an NFL schedule when it's all said and done. Are we adding like 2 or 3 more games? How does that work?
Oh, big time.
That's got to be ridiculous.
Well, this is the other thing that I heard someone bring up, and I agree with too. Since all these conferences are getting so much bigger anyway, can we get rid of the conference championships? I know the answer is no because of money, but does it? I mean, if we get rid of conference championships, how important is the game in the Big Ten if Ohio State and Michigan play, and then the very next week they play again,
right,
for the championship?
Right.
I think next year they are going to 12 games.
Right.
I think at that point, you got to get rid of the bowl games. The bowl games are superfluous. They serve no purpose.
I mean, most people don't watch them, and to be fair, it's funny when people get mad at the players for opting out, and most people don't watch these bowl games anyway. It's why are you getting mad?
Caleb Williams says he's out on the game against Louisville. But no, they're owned by ESPN though, guys. Most of those bowl games, the Lesser, the Holiday Bowl, and the Pinstripe Bowl, they're owned by ESPN, and it's original programming that brings people to the set.
But with 12 people in the playoff, 12 teams in the playoff, where do you schedule bowl games? I mean,
I think it's called Indiana Will Finally Have a Shot.
Yes.
At a bowl game.
But the cool thing is with the 12 teams, the team with the best record gets to host the game. So that's a cool thing it's a
campus game. Yep.
For those guys.
Agreed.
So,
well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess. All right. Anything else this week? Got it? Anything?
That's it for me.
That's it for me. It was a fun week of football.
Oh, amazing! Say that. Amazing. Now we'll go on from there. This has been Sports Sports and other stuff. Brought to you in part by Austin Chiropractic, reminding you, remember the 5 most dangerous words. Maybe it will go away. Get gain without pain at Austin Chiropractic. We've got a guy working there tonight.
His name is Fish, and this week in 1988, the world lost a singer who brought an operatic flair to rock and roll. To make sure that the memory of Roy Orbison never fades, Fish is hosting a Pretty Woman event, which will feature the biggest beehive hairdo, as well as the walk down memory lane with Roy's songs like Only the Lonely, Pretty Woman, of course, and Crying. Entry fee is $20 with a special screening of a concert by Roy's last band, the Traveling Wilburys, which featured Dylan, Harrison, and Petty. Come on down at 1 p.m. All proceeds will go to Betty's Beauty Barn, where they're trying to recover from a tragic hairdryer explosion.
Was that a 2-alarm or 3-alarm fire there at Betty's? Okay,
yeah.
That's this show.
Okay.
We're done. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. So long until next time. Bye-bye. What the heck?